Brian, I look at the headlines where Abe clearly playing to the domestic audience. The Prime Minister will take broad, bold economic steps. He is going to implement large-scale economic stimulus. Please translate this for us. How will Japan respond to the Prime Minister's announcements?
Well, first of all, I would expect, Tom, that he'll do pretty well in the elections next month. We don't know yet, but we think he's going to call a double election, so that'll be perfectly timed. Notice what he's saying here. A few months ago, he was saying he would not postpone the sales tax hike unless there were another Lehman-like event. Now he's blaming the world economy. He's saying the world is at risk, not Japan. Japan's doing fine because of Abenomics. But the external economies are at great risk, so he has to do this.
I mean, I don't need you to give me your opinion as an economist, but when I look at the data, I have trouble saying that Japan is doing fine. Which is it?
Oh, no, you're right to not see it there. So this is clearly, the virtuous cycle that Abe's been talking about, where corporate profits rise, and then that leads to higher wages, and then that spurs more consumption. That is not happening. So this is his attempt to try to kickstart that with a boost to consumer spending.
So, Brian, this then a fiscal situation in Japan that's not going to be as tight as previously people thought it might be. So you could call that a fiscal boost. Do the ratings agencies, are they likely to like this? Some of them have been wanting to see a higher sales tax.
Yeah, that's right. So as you mentioned, Fitch is a bit skeptical. They've already said they think this could be a risk to the commitment to fiscal consolidation. S&P has come out and they said they don't really see this as a huge setback. So kind of a mixed picture from the ratings agencies on that.
Brian, I'm going to take over here and just recap some of the headlines, because Prime Minister Abe is speaking to lawmakers in his own parliament right now, and he's saying that the global economy is facing large risks. This is partially why he's pushing off that sales tax increase until 2019 at least. He says he must increase escape velocity for the Japan economy, and that they will take broad, bold economic steps in the autumn, so I guess September, October time. However, he's not saying that he's outlining what those steps are right now. He talks about using the zero interest rate environment to the utmost possible, and he's going to bring forward the construction of the linear bullet train. So this is some of the fiscal stimulus measures that we had been promised we would get today as well, obviously, bringing forward construction of the linear bullet train. But Brian, I would suggest that there is no replacement for a sales tax increase. He hasn't said what that might be.
No, I think, he's hinting about this autumn stimulus. He's hinting about will be a package, and we've known it's coming. We don't know how big it's going to be. Economists have said it has to be somewhere around 9 to 10 trillion yen. He can't be, do a 3 or 4 trillion yen package. So I think we'll get the details maybe ahead of the election, and he'll probably use that to try to win some more votes.
Brian, how alone is the Prime Minister? It was remarkable at the G7 meeting as he staked out his concern for the global economy, and I believe was met with a thundering silence. Then we saw all of the drama of the visit to Hiroshima by the Prime Minister and by the President of the United States. But how alone is he among world leaders on this idea that the world economy is on the verge of a large risk?
Well, that's exactly right, Tom. So weeks ahead of the G7 summit, we could see this coming, and we kind of thought that Abe was going to use his chance with the G7 leaders to offer this and get their approval and their support. And it sounds like they weren't really willing to go along with his storyline. He's going to push it ahead anyway, though. So that's why he's blaming the risk to the global economy for forcing him to make this move. I think he's a little bit alone. I think there's some recognition through the G20 that it's time for fiscal steps to sort of balance what we've done in terms of monetary policy. So I don't think he's entirely alone, but he's definitely not got the whole G7 with his whole version of how history is being written.
And Brian, he's blaming the external environment, the global macro picture, but he's talking about the biggest challenge being reform of the labour system. This is something that is very much more within his control. It's supposed to be part of one of the arrows. How's he doing on that one?
Yeah, well, that was the third arrow that he's been talking about for 3 years, and nothing ever happened with it. So he's right to be talking about it. I think we can hope that if he does get the mandate that we expect in the lower house elections, that he will take that up once we get into September. That could be coming, and that would be big. But we'll see how committed he is to that.